Well, the X-Men movies are the X-Men are going to get refranchised, another franchise, another reboot, or first reboot, because the last reboot was connected to the old franchise, the movie franchise. And this is the one that started the franchise of all, was X-Men from 2000. I give this a 5 out of 10, because I both loathe this movie and love this movie. It's kind of a mixed bag of feelings I have towards this movie. Like to Elektra or X-Men Origins Wolverine or Kill Bill Volume 2. It's kind of like it was like probably one of the worst comic book adaptations ever made because it's so marketable and perfectly planned marketable worldwide demographic. To worldwide demographic, but at the same time, it might be the most perfect X-Men movie ever made because it's so marketable worldwide to a brighter audience and goes completely against the comics in terms of style, tone, and atmosphere and everything, and character development. Sort of like the Last Airbender movie. So it's basically like the Last Airbender movie if the Last Airbender movie didn't suck completely. From 2010 that M. Night Shyamalan did. So it's very safe business making decision of making this movie if it comes across. And it's poorly edited, like Last Airbender. But not poorly edited, but it becomes like incredibly boring and slow. It does become slow at times, but that's mostly with the old creepy old bald ass pedophile man called Charles Xavier, which I call him. His nickname. Pedophile man. Because what other standing citizen would adopt children and teach them to fight a war against mankind, against humankind, and that would like lead them to deadly battles that can end their lives, while also making sure they do it against their free will when they're asleep. That's not all creepy. Adopting children, right? For the greater good. Right, Charles Xavier? You know what I'm talking about. And X-Men fans, you know what I'm talking about. And like the comics, Wolverine, and it's a stock character because Wolverine's not like the comic because he's a complete useless bitch in the movie. He is the most dumbest, weakest, can't fight version, worst fighting skills version of any Wolverine incarnation that I've seen, making him the worst incarnation of Wolverine since the Australian Wolverine that voiced him in the 90s, I believe, or 80s X-Men on the Ed Pilot. Or Ed Pilot, I can't remember. It was a pilot that they never got picked up. The series never got picked up again, so they replaced it with the 90s X-Men series we know today. So, he's somehow worse than that Wolverine. The Australian-speaking Wolverine. Oh, this is kind of funny how like Hugh Jackman's not even trying. He's putting the same effort that George Clooney did with X-Men that George Clooney did with Batman. As in very low effort, but effort nonetheless. He's speaking and acting with the passion of George Clooney's Batman. Which is actually most roles that Kevin Costner has done. So Kevin Costner has like done a lot of bad shit in his life, and was acting sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't pay off. Sometimes it pays off like in Man of Steel, or other times it doesn't pay off like in shit, I forget what those movies were. Fuck, this is so bad. So anyway, the point is that Hugh Jackman is never cool as Wolverine and is a complete pussy and sucks at fighting. he mostly just starts getting his ass handed, making Wolverine look like a complete tool and an idiot. In this movie, he doesn't get good until the sequel, X-Men 2 United. Is when he finally starts acting like Wolverine because they gave him something to do other than just getting his ass, that's outside of ass, getting his ass handed, whooped to him. Like a fucking ragdoll thing, you know? So, and that's kind of saying that that's what he only does in the movie, because he gets his ass handed more than he did in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and whines more. Although you can't really tell because he barely says anything in this one compared to Wolverine's Origins, so go figure. So, what's tempted for me to give this a 10 out of 10 is by would be feeling a terrible movie critic and also a terrible person. Like, this gave it a 10 out of 10 just based on the fact that I find Mystique hot and attractive because she's naked for me and she will strip for the audience. Now, if it was a porn movie, that's another story. But this isn't a porn movie. It's one of those serious, grounded adaptations that nobody wants anymore now these days. And the 2000s are over. And 2010s also, so they're over, so, yeah, it's the one that wouldn't know that it's the one that like nobody gives a fuck about adaptations in terms of tone and logic. That's why the Fantastic Four reboot was from 2014 to 2015, which Michael B. Jordan failed so badly. Because nobody wants that anymore. It's like, much like other things, this movie just got popular just because of the trends. Not because it was actually good. And the reason why Fantastic Four, that one I just referenced, got failed, and this one was a success, is because the reason why that failed is the same reason why this failed. It's because of trends. The only difference is trends was pointing in one direction in 2000, now it's pointing the opposite direction in 2010, as in people don't want realistic takes on the grounded characters. They want the opposite. So so it's basically, 2005 Fantastic Four just had to wait a few decades. I just had waited it out until the, so they just had to wait out a few decades, you know? But they couldn't, so that's why it failed, you know? Even though it was actually a pretty good movie. So the reason why 2005 Fantastic Four failed is it failed because it wasn't grounded in reality and had logic to it. But this X-Men movie did. But, so it makes sense they would go the opposite route for the Fantastic Four, the second reboot, Foxwood. And because it worked so well with the X-Men. So, I guess, wait a minute, what am I talking about? I'm falling off track. The point is, things don't actually get popular just because they're good. It's just because of fucking trends. Is why things become popular and good. I've noticed. So, and the big evil plan that Magneto has to turn everyone immune, because that's not going to work. But that's the stupidest plan that's next to pissing off the Avengers. And that's Loki's big plan to get 2012's Avengers from, to piss them all off. That's even dumb. This is even dumb plan than that. Wanna know why? Because if you know anything about the X-Men lore and or any of the movies, you know that that's not how it's gonna work. You can't just make new DNA when it's not even there already in your DNA. Otherwise, sooner or later they're just going to probably, mutate and die. And that's what actually happens to President Lanzi, I believe his name is, that gets first one to gets tits on that machine that made me belt. And wonder what happens, he evaporates and dies. After mutating and evaporating and dying. So that's what's going to happen with the rest of the people who don't have the X gene that turns them into mutant that they have to be born with. But I bet Magneto didn't thought of that because he just wants everyone to be mutants because he's an idiot. In this one. Yep, Magneto's an idiot in this one. In this movie. And he had Mystique that had Mystique that was like sabotage Cerebro by poisoning like Cerebro. And when like Xavier put it on to track his friend Magneto that could to try to stop what he's about to do. A huge mistake he's about to make. Once it goes on, he goes into a coma. Xavier does. Now, all hope since lost, so they're going to suit up anyway. After Rogue gets taken, who barely resembles or acts like Rogue from the comics. Much like how Wolverine barely acts or resembles Wolverine from the comics. Or any of the X-Men characters, or Brotherhood, or mutants. Both sides have the same problem. So, all well and ends well as Danny with a shitty amount of teamwork that barely has any screen time. And, all Logan leads to go find his memories and find out who he is and uncover the secret of his past, blah blah, which leads an X-Men 2 United, and he doesn't uncover shit. So, Xavier led him on a wild goose chase. Because it gives us a pathological lie and a total douchehead. So, and that was X-Men. And I give this a 5 out of 10 story. So, what have we learned? Well, we learned that X-Men was never a great movie to begin with. And it was as brilliant as it was a mistake of idea of a movie to make. I say we all take this to heart. This moral lesson that we learned today. Well, you guys have. I haven't learned anything. I kind of saw for this movie since came out, so, which I was never a big fan of this movie, so, what's the character development? Who characters go through a character arc? Honestly, none really, except for Rogue, but, it's very minor amounts of screen time she, has, or, no, that's not true, she's just very forgettable of a character and doesn't leave that good impression on you. So, she has more screen time more than Wolverine. But she doesn't give you that much of a good impression on your mind. So this is why most people forgot about that she was the most common, most character development throughout the movie, and was basically her movie X-Men 1. And but I never really remember that about the movie, so yeah, X-Men 2 is basically, and X-Men 3 is basically focus. X-Men 2 focus mostly around Wolverine and his past, and X-Men 2 focus around X-Men and also Wolverine and also Jean Grey, and Cyclops losing his mind because he's so fucking depressed over the death of Jean that he's supposedly dead. And, so yeah, this one just really focused on Rogue. Nobody gives a fuck about Rogue. At least this version of Rogue, and neither do I, frankly. So that's why I get a 5 out of 10 X-Men.